And I can tell you, when we were on 59th Street Bridge, and there was a clock there, and it had 2 hours, 8 and 56 or something, and I said, 25 years ago, I was finishing. we still had 13 miles to go. But it was the best 13 miles I'd ever run, I can tell you. Those who father, son, or mother, daughter, or whatever, if you can do something like that, that is very, very special. And that was very, very special for me. And about 4 months later, she called and she said, I've got something to top that New York Marathon. And I said, I don't think so. And she said, I'm pregnant. So little Henry came along about 10 months ago. Nice. Yeah.
So the year after the marathon, you're in the VIP room at the New York City Marathon, and a mutual friend of ours, well, wasn't a friend of yours at the time, a guy named Tom Sullivan, who's a blind entertainer. They did a movie of his life called If You Could See What I Hear, and he was on Good Morning America, and he runs marathons and does triathlons with sighted folks. But he was in that VIP room with you, correct?
Yeah, he was.
And how did you meet him?
Well, I was preparing for the race. I'd run in Los Angeles, the marathon, the Olympic marathon in Los Angeles, and I just didn't have a good day. I was only 1.8% off my best time, but of course I wasn't in the stadium when the winners finished. But they did keep the lights on for me, and that was very good of them. And so I started in the New York City Marathon '84. And so I'm there preparing, and of course, as you do, you tend to have your feet out, thinking about things, just transcending. Next thing, somebody steps on my foot. I go, you've got to be joking. Can't you see where you're going? And he said, actually, I can't. And I look up. And it's Tom, this guy, Tom Sullivan, and he starts to tell me about, I said, look, really, I think this is marvelous. And I look around and go, what's he doing in here anyway? If he's blind, he shouldn't be in with the elites. Can he run that fast? So that was it.
That was, yeah.
And he said, my friend, Dr. Panich, is with me. And I said, well, what's he look like? He's a little bald Jewish guy. And I go, he's over there talking with Greta Weitz.
So he's on the other side of the room, leaving Tommy. And Tommy would just wander away.
Tom was wandering
So then the following year, you had won Beta Breakers, which is this great race up in the Bay Area. And so you guys know, right? Beta Breakers. So Rod is, he's won the race before, but after he had stepped on Tom Sullivan, Tom is good about laying a little guilt. So Rodney volunteers, sort of, to guide Tom Sullivan, blind guy, through Beta Breakers with about 100,000 people in the race.
Yeah.
And you're used to running with maybe one or two other guys around you, and now you've got thousands. So what happens?
So Tom and I got a kind of a good start, but then all the other people passed us, of course, up over Hay Street Hill, and he was very good.
Right.
Down Hay Street and into the Panhandle. And I'm saying to him, Tom, do you want some ice or water? Because they had ice bins, they had water. He said, I'll have some, ice. And I go, sure. So I got him some ice. He puts it in, he starts punching, and all of a sudden he spits it out. He said, my ice. And I said, I'll get some more. He said, no, my eye. And see, he has these plastic prosthesis eyes. And I look and I go, holy hell, one of them's popped out. So, of course, and this is the truth. You know this is the truth.
I know this is the truth, yes.
And I said, well, what do we do? And he says, you're going to have to look for it. I said, will it be looking at me or what? I mean, and he said, and I said, well, what does it look like? And he said, I don't know. And so I took him to the side and I said, just wait here, will you? Just wait here. I didn't know what to do, and I'm looking down, and all these thousands of people are going past, and I see something white right across on the other curb. So I get through, and that's what it was. Took it back, I washed it out, washed it in a cup, and gave it back to him. He put it, and we carried on running. And this was like, does this happen often? And so when we finished, of course, the media had been following us, and he'd done this amazing Wind Beneath My Wings the night before on the TV, and it was just, everybody loved Tom. And, of course, Jay Fonzie was interviewing us. Now, I see, Rod, that your time is a little off on what you wanted, and I said, well, there's a few things and a lot of people. And Tom, how did yours go? He says, I know I would have run faster if I hadn't lost my eye. And he starts to take it out. And Jay Fonzie said, we'll go back to the studio now for some...
That is a classic.
As Tom said, he'll keep an eye out for me next year.
Yeah, nice. That is great. So, Rodney, you're one of the guys who's been cross-training your whole life.
Yep.
Rod was really, in terms of the sport of triathlon, when a lot of people were looking at us idiots doing the swim, bike, run stuff, Rodney knew Scott Tinley. He knew how hard these guys trained and was always a supporter of the sport of triathlon. And you did a fair amount of cross-training yourself. Like now, you ride the mountain bike, you kayak, you do everything.
Yeah, I think, in fact, there again, when I realized in 1980 that I had to become a professional, I had to, I mean, even though the word amateur was still within our, we're the IAAF, the International Amateur Athletic Federation. And, of course, the New York thing with my decals, I got suspended. Pending a hearing because I had broken the rules of having a half-inch logo by half-inch on my shirt. And so I was stood down. I wasn't allowed to race for 3 months. And fortunately, I had a great mate who was a lawyer, and he fought for my rights to earn a living, et cetera, and we went under human rights and things. And the federation had to back off on that and reinstate me. But that's the sort of thing that I was dealing with all the time, so certainly it was when in 1980 when I started, I realized that I have to train smarter, I have to train better. I mean, I'm going to be a full-time athlete, so what do you just go for a run and then sit around for the rest of the day? No, I started to incorporate going to gym and to the yoga. I took up yoga in 1980. I'm a big, huge fan of Kundalini now. I still do it. I try and do it at least twice a month, but I do it at home. I try and take a class twice a month. But I realized going to the gym, and I was always fascinated by the way boxers trained. Right. I mean, and I used to be able to do 15 rounds of 3 minutes on, a minute off on the heavy bag. But I could never understand why they want somebody to punch them. I was exhausted. If somebody had punched me, I would have lost it. So, I mean, I took my hat off to those guys. A lot of the guys used to do road work with them, and they were some of the hardest trainers, some of those boys in the Philly area. As you know, that's where I went up to Muhammad Ali's camp up in Deer Park and watched them training, and that was pretty full on. So I was fascinated by them. And then, meeting Tinley and Scott Molina and Dave Scott and those, and I was fascinated by how they trained, and I started to bring a lot of that into me. And I know that I was really one of the first distance runners.
No question.
And I think, that has given me that longevity. And now, mountain biking is a huge thing. I find that running 45 to 50 minutes every other day, doubling it once a week, that's all the cardiovascular running I need to do, and I fill the other programs, and I go to the gym, I cross-train. And I think here I am, still doing it.
How about a big round of applause for our main man, Mr. Rod Dixon.
Thank you.